Hello everyone, my name is Noah and welcome to the Stet Studio and this setup of my July bullet journal. This is my, I think it's 192 page A5 bullet journal from Archer & Olive. It's got the linen cover. I'm not a huge fan of these darker colors because as you can see all the dust and stuff on it, but honestly, I've been using this for about 6 months now, so it makes sense that it start to show some wear, so I shouldn't be too upset. It's holding up really well, the bookmarks are still in place, the binding's still solid, and all of that. It's just a little dusty looking. So we're going to open it up, and I'm going to show you what we're up to, but first I'm going to move all of my supplies back just a little bit. Since it is the beginning of the second quarter, or it will be when July starts, we have a few extra spreads. We're going to be talking about the second quarter review and going into the third quarter and all of that. And so it's going to be maybe a little bit longer of a video. Of course, my kitty cat's here to help. I don't know if you can see him, but that's what that shadow was. And yeah, I'm going to bring you down like usual and we'll get started. I have lots of Mildliner pens and Tombow art pens as well, and I have my favorite Pitt artist pens here. I keep them upside down so the ink flows into them. They're a little bit old and they kind of are getting needing to be replaced. And Ravioli will definitely be helping us out. I'm sure you can see his feet in his shadow. It's a pretty dreary day, so the lighting's not great to begin with. And yeah, I think that's everything. Like I said, I'll bring you down close and we'll get started. So the first thing I decided to do was stamp out a title for the second quarter in review spread. Of course, Ravioli had to help me with that, so you'll be seeing a lot of him in the beginning of this setup, but as time goes on, he does go and do his own thing. And I really do love these typewriter stamps. I've been using them all year, and they really just, I don't know, they're fun for me to use, and I think they look nice, especially on the coffee stained paper, which is what I'm using for this title. I just took a little piece and stamped on it, and then once I was done stamping, I will rip the edge up and make it look all old and fancy. And of course, he just had to help. That's really who he is. He needs to be involved in everything, especially the things that I am doing. He is always all over me. Although, to be fair, when I was filming this, it was during the day, and I was the only one home, so slim pickings, of course. And then I did glue it into the bullet journal. I always try to, when I'm doing stamping on separate pages or separate papers, to do it and then glue it in, so if I mess up, I don't have to try and remove it. And then I did go in and erase the pencil because, as you'll see, I am going to be adding in some highlighter, and at the time I wasn't really sure where I was going to be adding it, and I don't usually bother erasing things ahead of time, but if you're going to be using a highlighter, you can't really erase anything that's underneath it. So while my Mildliner did not end up going in the spot that I thought it was going to originally, it was still a good practice to erase it. And this is the color that I associated with the second quarter, so it makes sense that it would be the color for the second quarter review, and I just kind of framed it so it would look a little more finished. Then I moved on to my spread for my clients for quarter 3. I do custom painting and custom artwork, so it's nice to have a spread to keep track of that. I like to include a section for the name, the project, the deadline, and the contract. You can see that I was trying to write quarter 3 and picked the P stamp instead of the Q stamp. So I decided to put in a piece of paper instead, and I should have really stamped on it before I glued it in, which I was just talking about. You'll see I make a lot of little mistakes during this spread. That is because I had had a migraine the day before this, and I still technically had it. I wasn't in pain anymore at this point, if I remember correctly, but I had a lot of brain fog. Oh god. I had a lot of brain fog. That's hard to say for some reason. So yeah, you'll just see a lot of little mistakes that I just wouldn't normally make, but it's okay. A lot of the theme for this bullet journal creation was just kind of letting go and being okay with it because I was tired and I just wanted to have my bullet journal set up, but I didn't have the energy to make it fancy or really just not make mistakes, apparently. So we are continuing with this pared down theme that I've been doing this year, and I do really enjoy it. It's not just a matter of convenience. I do really like it. This next spread is something that I can't believe I'm already making. This is the 2024 Events to Remember spread, because I'm already having like doctor's appointments and events pop up in 2024 that I need to write down. And as you see there, that second line I have to cover up with a little piece of label paper because I did draw it in the wrong spot. You'll also see when I get to the bottom, I made 16 squares. There are only 12 months. I did not need 16 squares. So the coffee paper saved the day again. I just kind of pasted it over top of the mistake, as you will see, and created a little notes section, which I don't know what I'll use, but it looks better than just random boxes that I don't end up needing. And I kind of set this up like my holidays and events spread at the beginning of my bullet journal that I use for my social media. I have a little square for each month, and I'll write things down in them as they come up. Like I said, I do think the etc. notes section looks good, but it would have been nice if I didn't need to cover up a mistake. This next one is the cover page, and this one is really very simple. And I don't know if I recorded myself doing it. I think I did, but I do end up adding in a little more coffee stain paper just to give it a little flair. The quote for this cover page is, "Destroying what someone else cherished never brought back what you yourself lost. All it did was spread grief like a contagion. Shelley Parker Chan, She Who Became the Sun." And I did kind of write it a little funky. I moved the second sentence down and aligned it, and that was on purpose. I thought it would look cool. I don't know if it does or not, but I don't regret it. Here's the coffee stain paper. I glued this in just to give a little bit of decoration, since I didn't really have anything going on this page. Then the next page is the calendar for the month. This will be an interesting month. I don't know what is going to be going on, because I will be in the middle of it going on vacation for a week, but we will see. And I did end up including at the top the 31st because there wasn't room for it at the bottom. I could have shifted everything up, but I liked having a spot for the title, although now that I'm looking at the finished spread, I suppose I could have put the phrase July at a glance down in between the first week, where it didn't have the days from Monday to Friday. Oh well, I put the key there and I think it looks good. You will see what I'm talking about as we get further into it. Also, you'll notice here that I messed up the word July, but I did manage to fix it, which is pretty great. I always am not sure what to put. Should I put July overview, July at a glance, and I kind of just go back and forth depending on what I think sounds better at the time for each month, and I don't really know. Which do you prefer? You'll have to let me know down below. It's not really anything all that interesting. You can see that for the 31st, I included a little dashed line just so that it is more obvious that it's not the first of the month. And I've really been enjoying the key, like I mentioned before, that I've been using for the past 2 months, I think, where I highlight each event in a different color depending on what type of event it is. And then I decided this month, since I never use the notes section that I make, to turn it into a quote. So this is another book I read recently. The quote is, "Let my roots grow strong and my skin grow thick, that I might stand fast against all who would destroy me." And this is a quote from The Angel of the Overpass, which is the third book in the Ghost Stories series by Seanan McGuire, and I would recommend all of her books. They are so good. I haven't read any other books by Shelley Parker Chan, if there are any more, but I did also really enjoy She Who Became the Sun. It was a sort of sapphic retelling of Mulan. It reminded me a lot of The Poppy War, not just because they both take place in a sort of fantasy-esque China and involve war, but just sort of the motivations of the character really did remind me of that. Anyways, moving on to the next spread, which the video seems to have done without me, is the projects and tasks video. This is where I put things that maybe need to be done once a month or maybe once a week, and then you'll see down below there are some trackers as well. I like to write out my YouTube videos ahead of time so that when the week comes, I know what I'm going to be filming and I don't have to try and think of something. I also included space to keep track of how far in advance I filmed my reels, and I also keep track of whether I've written my newsletters or not. I write like 2 each month, one that is writing themed, one that is art themed. I also keep track of my Instagram photos as well as the postcard for the postcard club for that month. And you can see that I accidentally used the Q instead of the P here, which I just didn't cover up. It's okay. I also misjudged the amount of space I needed for the receipts line, so the box for receipts is just kind of in the middle. And then we move on to the weekly spreads. You will see one because they're all the same. I do a sort of rolling weekly that I just keep refining and paring away at. It started as an inspiration from the Plant-Based Bride. I've thrown in some of my inspiration from Jashi Koren, and I just keep going as I think of new things that I like. These cross-hatching lines are nice. They help me keep track of the days and the tasks, and this is the 3rd quarter color, so you'll see I've been using it all throughout this part of the spread. I like to include the dates. I also have a little weekly section down below, which I initially forgot, which is why you see the cross-hatching continue, but it's not the end of the world. It's fine. Especially since it's a light color, it's easy to just write over. And then after I did all the weeks, we have the July in review. This section allows me to have a weekly review for each week and then a monthly review at the bottom. I find this spread, and I think I say this every month, super, super helpful, especially at the end of quarters, which we're getting to now, because I can go back and look not only at the past month, but the past 3 months, the past 6 months, and really just understand what my life has been like. And sometimes it's really hard to remember. You wouldn't think that because you're living it, but like as time goes by, you're just like, I don't remember what happened. And since I had an extra spot at the bottom this month, I included another quote. With their eyes on each other, it was easy to be brave. Maybe that's the only way we get through this, Kiyoshi thought. Just never look back. And that's Avatar: The Rise of Kyoshi by F.C. Yi. This is a duology of books about the Avatar Kyoshi, who was one of the avatars before Aang from the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, and I really enjoyed them. They are YA books. They're a lot of fun though, and I would wholeheartedly recommend them. They're so good. They're also very sapphic, so that's fun as well. So, yep, this is the final flip through. I'm really happy with how this setup turned out, despite all of the mistakes. You really just have to be gentle with yourself. We all struggle at times, regardless of whether it's for our health, whether that be physical or mental, or any other reason. You kind of have to let go and be okay with things not being perfect. Like I said, I really do like how this bullet journal spread turned out. Let me know what you think of it, and let me know what you're doing in your bullet journal this month. Thank you so much for watching. Like or dislike the video, subscribe, leave some comments, ring the bell, all that silliness, and thank you so much for spending some time in the Stet Studio with me today. Goodbye.
About the journey to remind myself that the work is the reward. That is kind of like